I'm Luke Summerhays, and I love Darumaka. Daruma dolls are small, round, red dolls found at temples and gift shops in Japan. They originated in Shorinzan Temple in Gunma Prefecture. The Daruma represents the Bodhidharma, or Daruma in Japanese, the founder of Zen Buddhism. Buying a Daruma doll at New Year is a big tradition in Japan, with people painting one eye as they make a wish, and the other when it comes true, then burning the doll and replacing it at the next New Year. On top of this centuries-old cultural significance, Daruma are also popular throughout Japanese social culture. Children play a version of red light, green light called Daruma-san, with the player as the Daruma coming to life. There's a Jenga-like wooden game in which blocks beneath the Daruma are knocked out with a little hammer. And in winter, snowmen are called Yuki Daruma by Japanese children, with Yuki meaning snow. Darumaka is a fire-type Pokemon, a bouncing little monkey that resembles a Daruma. Pokemon Black tells us, when its internal fire is burning, it cannot calm down and it runs around. When the fire diminishes, it falls asleep. And in a slightly more gross little snippet, Pokemon White tells us, Darumaka's droppings are hot, so people used to put them in their clothes to keep themselves warm. Pokemon Shield acknowledges the traditional origins of the Daruma, but also a more recent form played with by children, a kind of tumbler doll that wobbles but never falls down. This popular symbol of good fortune will never fall over in its sleep, no matter how hard it's pushed or pulled. Darumaka's fire typing of course comes from burning Darumas at New Year, but in the Galar region, based on the UK, there's no tradition of making and burning Daruma, but there is certainly a tradition of people making snowmen. And here we have Galarian Darumaka, an ice-type Pokemon that looks like a white Daruma made of snow. Pokemon Sword tells us, it lived in snowy areas for so long that its fire sac cooled off and atrophied. It now has an organ that generates cold instead. And Pokemon Shield tells us, the colder they get, the more energetic they are. They freeze their breath to make snowballs, using them as ammo for playful snowball fights. When a Unovan Darumaka reaches level 35, or when a Galarian Darumaka is exposed to an ice stone, they both evolve into Darmanitan. Darmanitan is a bigger, almost gorilla-like beast, still resembling a Daruma in its Unovan form, and with a round bouffant haircut, becoming slightly more resemblant of a snowman in Galarian form. Pokemon Black tells us, its internal fire burns at 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit, making enough power that it can destroy a dump truck with one punch. As for Galarian Darmanitan, Pokemon Sword tells us, on days when blizzards blow through, it comes down to where people live. It stashes food in the snowball on its head, taking it home for later. And Shield says, though it has a gentle disposition, it's also very strong. It will quickly freeze the snowball on its head before going for a headbutt. Many players will have first encountered Darmanitan in the overworld in Pokemon Black and White, where it could be found as a statue which springs to life when a player interacts with it. This is because Darmanitan has the hidden ability Zen Mode to gain a unique form. Welcome back to Moils on Mon, Darumaka.
I really like this guy. I think both forms, like Darumaka and its evolution, and its other forms actually, have all got something good about them. So, Darumaka, he's falls at that goofy little guy bracket for me, but he has that added benefit of being like it's a Daruma, right? Dharma doll.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I'm sure you'll have already spoke about on this episode. And then Darmanitan, he was another lad that, like, I spoke about Excadrill previously. Darmanitan was another lad that, like, really pulled his weight for me. And in Pokemon Black, just big, strong gorilla lad. I like his massive grin, basically. Like, it's such a cool design. Still evoking that Dharma sort of energy there. And yeah, big fan of these lads. And then you're going to have to remind me, what form do they have? I know they've got a snow form.
Oh, right. So, they have form... So Daruma to begin with, Darumaka has a second form.
Oh, does it?
Because, so Darmanitan has two forms. It could be, like, awake and about, and then it has a fire psychic form where it turns into a statue.
Oh, that's right! So it does. I don't think I ever used that form. Really.
That's how you sort of meet them in the game, I think. They're sort of all lined up outside the temple and you don't realise they're alive at first.
Maybe I didn't have the ability to trigger that, because I think it was an ability thing.
Yeah, and then in Sword and Shield we also get a whole snow version.
Yeah, and I remember like...
And that also has like two forms.
Having a big like snow afro.
Yeah.
And a big beard. I never used it because I used one in my Gen 5 run, but...
I mean, I'll have mentioned this elsewhere in the episode, but do you want to know why that exists?
Sure.
The Japanese word for snowman is Yuki Daruma.
Ah! Well, there we go.
Yep. When their health drops below half, these Pokemon enter Zen mode, in which Unovan Darmanitan resembles Stone Daruma. In this form, speed and attack are swapped for special attack and defensive power. Unovan Darmanitan gain an additional psychic type in this form, and Pokemon White tells us, when weakened in battle, it transforms into a stone statue. Then it sharpens its mind and fights on mentally. This ability to turn into a statue may just come from the simple fact that Daruma dolls exist, or from the children's game where one player can turn around and the others have to stay still. Or it may have more sinister origins. Darumas are based on a real-life monk, and in Japanese history, there was a tradition of Buddhist monks self-mummifying through intense meditation and minimal diets for years. These mummies basically become dead statues, and this inspired such things as the ability for a turn into a little statue monk in Mario. It's a little scarier when you think of it that way. In their Zen mode, Galarian Darmanitan even more strongly resemble snowmen, and gain an additional fire type. Rather than boosting defensive stats and special attack, it actually cuts defense and boosts attack even further. Pokemon Sword tells us, Anger has reignited its atrophied flame sac. This Pokemon spews fire everywhere as it rampages indiscriminately. And Pokemon Shield tells us, Darmanitan takes this form when enraged. It won't stop spewing flames until its rage has settled, even if its body starts to melt. Darmanitan's decent attacking power for a fire type, and exceptional attacking power as an ice type, meant they both saw some competitive play. Unfortunately, in the multiplayer game, it never made sense to build a team around a Pokemon which switches to a defensive role mid-fight, so Zen mode never really came into it. I've never settled into a routine for my New Year's in Japan yet, so I actually still have the Daruma from my very first January 31st. I wished I would get to stay in the country, and I've had 5 more New Year's Eve since then, so I guess it worked. I'm not entirely sure how such a long-term wish is supposed to work. Should I burn it after 1 year, or do I need to hold on to it as long as I stay in the country? Answers in a tweet, please.